Look what I've done for the first time. I've shown you the questions in advance. What do you think of that? So you get an idea. I was just telling my friends that I had this bizarre dream about today and about what I was supposed to teach. It was so complicated, I had to remember it. And it had nothing to do with what I was going to say. Do you ever have these obsessional dreams like that, where you do that kind of a thing? No? Maybe it's just me? Yes? But anyway, I'm glad it turned out that that's not at all what I was going to say. But this is where I'm heading, and I hate to close it off, this portion of it, because you could go forever looking at God's handiwork in the natural world on every order of magnitude. And it made me think, actually, of a thing that I plan to do now. It's a kind of a museum of beauty that I came up with. And this museum of beauty would include like different rooms for different things. And I had thought of this for years ago. What if I had unlimited funds and wanted to create a museum that would draw people through beauty and through God's created order to himself? And even they're not believers, but they could see the palpable evidence of this. So there'd be all kinds of rooms, multiple rooms. One that would just be butterflies, another one would be seashells, and you could go on. And so we outlined minerals, rocks, fossils, bioluminescence, seashells, astronomy, small mammals and birds and so forth. And it was a very interesting idea. Then it occurred to me, actually one could do such a thing now. I was going to do it in Kent. If I was ever going to do it, I would do it in Kent, England, because the temperature differential is so small. It's a perfect place. You can actually have a blue spruce right next to a palm tree. It's very unusual that they're able to do that. So I envisioned this because it would draw people, but I realized something actually one can do digitally. So I've got these, I don't have enough projects to do. So I have yet another one on my head here. But it would be interesting to have a whole room you could go to and explore wonderful things on every order of magnitude, you see. And that would be very fascinating for me to do. And in fact, things like of this sort here, this is a book called From Combinations of Various Things. So you see some tremendous, this is like artistry here. What you're doing is gardening. You're gardening God's creation. So this artist here has actually turned this thing into art. You see these beetles like that? And what's fascinating is we know when we see this that, that's an evidence. Now we would look at this, but when we see a collection of things, what strange creatures, aren't they? But when we see several things of this nature, let me see, like that, what do you have there? These are beetles. So you'd know, somebody put it that way. But what's amazing is you deduce that from this design, but people then ignore the fact that these are infinitely more complex than the design, this pattern that you're seeing. And they attribute these things to basically mutations in natural selection. You see, it's infinitely more complex than what an artist could do. But you and I are gardeners, I believe. And I think in the ages to come, we're going to be gardening. We're going to be able to take God's created order in the new creation. Imagine the sinless, tearless, deathless world of the new creation, a new order of physics in your resurrected, glorified bodies, which with so much greater capacity. And imagine that you are in that context and you can shape and do things. And no longer is there the world system or the flesh or the devil and his angels. All that's taken care of. Imagine what you will be able to craft and cultivate and do. Because you're going to have a lot of time in your hand. When you stop and think, if you don't have to sleep and all kinds of, what are you going to do? And it's not like that Gary Larson thing with the guy floating on his cloud with his halo saying, are there any magazines here? You see, because that's most people's idea of heaven as a crashing bore, to me. No, you've heard me describe this before. It's endless creative activity without frustration to the glory of God. And that, I don't know what that'll look like. Have there been some things that you wanted to do and you know you won't have enough time to do? If you look at your life, aren't there some desires you have of things you know you could do, but you won't be able to do it? And everything you choose to do is another thing you can't do. And so there's a lot of things I'd like to do, and those are hints of home to me. Those are hints, that longing, that desire. So I don't know what it'll be like, but I'm going to be doing a lot of fun things of that sort. But I pick up from here because I want to explore and just tie together some threads on how the visible realm points beyond itself to the invisible. How can I integrate general and special revelation, by which I mean the 4 words of God? We've talked about this before, but God's infinite word, which is what I mean by general revelation. General means it's available to all, you see. All ages, all cultures, everybody has this insight, this awareness. All of us have the image of God in us, and therefore no one can say there's no God. The fool has said in his heart there's no God, but that the fool is not one who is intellectually deficient, but rather morally deficient. He fails to acknowledge and humble himself before the mysteries that transcend and surround us. So his infinite word then is manifest, and it shows his eternal power and divine nature being clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, but they're without excuse. But then God's inspired word, so the special revelation includes his inspired word, which points always to the incarnate word. The entirety of this Hebrew Bible all points to Jesus, doesn't it? And beginning with Moses and the prophets, he began to speak to them the things concerning what? Himself. Wouldn't you love to have been a fly on the wall there in Luke 24 on the road to Emmaus when he was talking with him, and then when he disappeared at the breaking of the bread? Didn't our hearts strangely burn when we heard these things? You see that concept there? So what was that about? And then the inspired word points to the incarnate word, and beyond all comprehension or imagination, because a saint, a believer in the Old Testament economy, under the Mosaic economy, could never have imagined that the one who created all things not only would become one of us, but moreover would actually dwell in us, and that you are in him and he's in you. I can't even imagine. These are things that really are mysteries to me. I can't really grasp them. But what I've been trying to do is to leverage my appreciation of what we can see as vehicles to help me understand better what we can't see. That's what I'm trying to do here. And that's my point of my question that I'm giving you in advance. How can you integrate? How can I then amplify what I see to what I don't see? So here, for example, are some photos. Well, I took some of these from yesterday. I won't show you those, but these are just some photos that I've taken over the last couple of years. And I just look at this glory here, and I behold this. This is at Gibbs Gardens. If you haven't been to Gibbs Gardens, you want to go there. This is what it looks like, and it's just splendid, as you can see. So so these are some photos, a few of which we might use in this book that I'm working on called The Angel and the Voyager. But it's so again, these are beautiful things that we behold and see, and they're marvelous to behold on every level. So it's just almost more than you can take in. This level of beauty that transcends the imagination in many cases. So I truly love to go to that place, and others of that sort, the water and so forth. You just look at that. This is just a flower among millions of these things, this dahlia, and just the intricacy and the complexity, and you could go further in and more, and if you could go inside in one of the cells, it would be a whole world beyond imagination. So we are surrounded by this ineffable beauty that's all around us, and we fail to notice it. Let it become an agent. Train yourself to see God in behind that, you see. Train yourself to see that, because there's lessons to be learned. Here's a little bouquet. I make bouquets once a week for Karen from our garden, and because it's just clematis and wonderful and beautiful things like this. So that's another one of the ones I made. So it's just a glorious thing for us to do then, is if you can train yourself Listen to the birds, listen, feel the wind, and look at the sky. Did you notice the colors of the sky when you were coming in this morning? How splendid that was? What should that be? That should be doxological. Again, what does that mean? Not only enjoy it, but thank God for it. And it's almost like him saying, I'm glad you noticed. Because few notice. Few bother taking the time to notice that. So how can you love God through his creation? That's what we're talking about here. So I have some fun things for you just to wrap this little section up. We could go on, as I say, for a long time, forever, frankly. But I want to show you this lyrebird.
He clears a space in the forest to serve as his concert platform. To persuade females to come close and admire his plumes, he sings the most complex song he can manage, and he does that by copying the songs of all the other birds he hears around him, such as the kookaburra. It's a very convincing impersonation. Even the original is fooled. He can imitate the calls of at least 20 different species. He also, in his attempt to outsing his rivals, incorporates other sounds that he hears in the forest. That was a camera shutter. And again. And now a camera with a motor drive. And that's a car alarm. And now the sounds of foresters and their chainsaws working nearby.
So what you see there is something that's quite glorious, this lyrebird. And I see this glorious sound. How does this thing hear it and then duplicate it without any effort at all? Perfectly. To hear a camera shutter with a motor drive and hearing it sawing wood. And so you could do hundreds of examples of this. You could spend the rest of your life looking at these wonderful kinds of things. So the world is filled with marvels and wonders. I mean, even chickens. Who would have thunk it? Chickens. There are beautiful chickens in this world. I mean, I know you don't believe me, but check out some of these crazy things. I mean, that is not an ordinary chicken here, you see. And look at this thing. It's like more like fur than anything. So you see God's variety and these bizarre birds that are of every description that are there. And what is this for? It's for a display of glory and beauty, even with chickens. I mean, I would have never thought this. I just had to throw this out. I mean, just look at this plumage here. It's actually quite splendid, is it not? So some of these are bizarre. Like, this is kind of crazy looking to me. So what's its purpose? I think it's just God's humor and play and enjoyment and creating wonderful, bizarre things that I wouldn't be able to even begin to dream up if I had to design a new chicken. So I wouldn't be able to do this, you see. So it's just absolutely astonishing that you have such things of this nature. So there's a video that I want you to see. It's the John 10:10 project here. This beauty and Darwin and design. And if I open this thing here, I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but there are certain things that we can see in this video just illustrate God's variety. So I'm just showing you just a few wonders, just on every order of magnitude. You see just that creative play, it's all like, and this wild color, this palette, this power, this mandarin duck, and all these things. And you look at the peacock and its plumage, and it's fascinating when you hear about this.
You see the peacock's tail and you go, wow. It's a visual crescendo of symmetry, harmony, coordination among all the elements of the design. And the deeper you look, the more interesting it becomes.
An adult male peacock has, on average, about 200 individual tail feathers. 170 of them feature a decorative eye spot, and 30 are crowned with a wing-shaped plume called a T. When displayed during courtship, the feathers form a magnificent fan, where every eye spot and T are uniformly spaced and geometrically balanced to create a showcase of pattern, symmetry, precision, and design.
This bird is a living, breathing work of art. And when we move in close to the details, we see craftsmanship and planning and subtle engineering that's just utterly obvious.
The shape of every eye spot is defined by rows of multicolored branching strands called barbs. Moving closer, we see that each barb contains thousands of barbules, microscopic filaments tightly compacted along a rigid shaft. And the surface of each barbule is segmented into crystal-like bands of molecular jewelry. These barbules are reflective, so they glimmer and change color when struck by light from different angles.
The total effect of all this decoration provides an excellent example of what is known as gratuitous beauty. That's beauty that goes way beyond what's needed to attract a mate or to provide some other survival advantage. In other words, you have features that look like they're there for no other reason than to be gorgeous, to be beautiful, to be breathtaking.
In nature, gratuitous beauty is not limited to peacocks, for the animal and plant kingdoms are filled with striking visual displays that each evokes an obvious question. Is artistry of this magnitude actually possible through natural selection, a blind process devoid of foresight or purpose, that theoretically constructed every detail in every organism through a series of biological accidents, random errors in the genetic code?
No, because randomness by definition is going nowhere in particular. So the method of explanation, the tools of explanation that natural selection gives us are far too crude for what they need to explain.
We're looking at wonders. Just this geometry alone was fascinating to me. And just discussing this, it's a whole video. But you just look at these barbules, thousands of these complex things, and there's no developmental pathway by which they could just suddenly appear and gradually do this. They're just too exquisite, too complex. But we see it again. It's a display of God's glory and beauty that just speaks to us in ways that are almost transcendent. This nematode, these strange creatures of this sort. So you see God's variety and complexity, and you just look at this wonder, and what does it point to? You see the mind of the Maker, and His vast creativity is just evident for all to behold. And that's what one of the things I love about these videos. It just helps us to see things in a different way. Again, if I look at things on every order of magnitude, and we don't have time to go in much, but again, I just look at astronomy, and this is something that drew me as a boy, and that's why I went and studied astronomy at Case Institute of Technology. I was so drawn by the splendor of the cosmos, but at that time, we didn't have photos like this. See, they're far more detailed, far richer than they were at that time. Very few color photos, but now the technologies are such that you can see these remarkable patterns all throughout the context of the cosmos. So it's just boggles the imagination. This is one of the Hubble Deep Field photos that you've seen where they train the Hubble for many hours on one object, usually an area where it seems to be empty space. In this case, then thousands of galaxies appear, so that the vastness of the number of them is almost beyond belief. In fact, speaking of Milky Way, of the galaxies and so forth, and looking at the beauty of the cosmos, which boggles the imagination. The sizes of these things are so vast you can't even hardly imagine. This is the Andromeda galaxy. It's a sister galaxy of ours, and it's 2.5 million light years away, and it has approximately 400 billion stars and its own companion galaxy. We have a couple of companion galaxies as well. Island universes, wonders within wonders, and it just goes on and on and on. So you can just keep on going with that, and you see this marvel and this beauty. So it's really, to me, most remarkable to explore and appreciate. So I wanted just to do this thing here, Milky Way and the fingerprints, so that the John 10:10 project of fingerprints, I want you to see this. This is well worth your seeing.
These are fingerprints of adult human beings. Each measures approximately 1/2 by 3/4 of an inch. Now, you're probably wondering why this information is of any significance. Well, when coupled with some of the greatest astronomy in history, the tip of your finger can help reveal a breathtaking perspective of the universe. Just stay with me for a minute, and I think you'll see what I mean. In April 1990, the Space Shuttle Discovery transported and positioned the Hubble Space Telescope 350 miles from Earth. There, orbiting above the turbulence of our atmosphere, the Hubble has captured unprecedented views of the universe for the past 3 decades. Its gallery includes planets and nebulae, galactic collisions, supernovas, and extraordinary surveys of deep space that have opened new doors to understanding the size and structure of the cosmos. On May 2nd, 2019, an international team of astronomers released a new Hubble image that captured the imagination of the world. They called it the Hubble Legacy Field. For 250 days, over a period of 16 years, the telescope was aimed at one sliver of sky near the Fornax constellation in the southern hemisphere. In all, 7,500 exposures of this region of space, long thought to be relatively empty, were captured by the Hubble cameras. Later, they were assembled into the most detailed view of the cosmos ever explored. At least 265,000 galaxies were documented, including many so faint and distant their light measured just 1/10,000,000th of the brightness the human eye can see. Okay, now here's where your fingertip comes into play. From Earth, you can cover the entire area photographed by the Hubble astronomers including its estimated 265,000 galaxies. With the tip of your index finger held at arm's length. And that section of space we just blocked out? It represents our view of about 1/240,000th of the entire night sky. The implications are humbling. For almost every one of those 240,000 fingertip-sized parcels of sky includes at least 250,000 galaxies. Wow.
You get your brain around that. I mean, it's, as Dan says, I can't get my brain around it. It's kind of wrapping my brain. These things are astonishing. And one other thing that I want you to show you, I have enough time. Big universe, bigger God. And I'm not going to go through the whole of this one here, but it imagines a flight that was at the speed of light and what it would be like to go there at this point. This little gray guy goes off here. So as they're going by there, then they're seeing various objects and in our solar system here, and it continues on. I'll pick it up from here.
Now we'll adjust our flight path for an angle nearly perpendicular to the planetary orbits. Behind us, the boundaries of our cosmic neighborhood quickly vanish. We have entered interstellar space, the great void between our solar system and the next nearest star. A year passes, then 2, 3, 4 years. Finally, on April 19th of the 5th year since our departure from Earth, we are momentarily blinded by the light of the Alpha Centauri system. 3 stars bound together by gravity. They are the closest stars to our Sun. We have traveled nearly 26 trillion miles, but we're just getting started. 10 light years from Earth, 24 neighboring stars glimmer in our wake. One of them, Tau Ceti, resembles our Sun. 100 light years, clouds of gas and dust in the Orion arm of the Milky Way surround us. 1,000 light years, the elegant spiral shape of our galaxy is clearly visible. Earth is located here. The Milky Way is part of a community of at least 40 galaxies drawn together by gravity to form what is known as the local group. For the rest of our journey, each point of light we see is no longer an individual star, but an entire galaxy filled with billions of stars. Our local group is adjacent to the Virgo cluster, a massive concentration of an estimated 2,000 spiral, elliptical, and dwarf galaxies that emit searing clouds of plasma and dust. This spectacular creation is the heart of a chain of cosmic islands, once shaped by the gravitational pull of 40,000 different galaxies. Collectively, they form the Virgo supercluster, one of the largest structures known to science. But as our view widens, this chain is quickly lost among countless formations of similar composition and size. For Virgo is a drop in a cosmic bucket that may contain as many as 10 million superclusters, each a slender thread in the large-scale construction of the observable universe. Our journey has transported us 45 billion light years from Earth to the outer limits of scientific discovery. a sprawling web of filaments spun from perhaps 2 trillion galaxies, and stars more numerous than grains of sand on all the deserts and beaches of the world.
I hate to stop it there, but it's just absolutely astonishing. When you look at this network, this web, as you can see it here, it's absolutely remarkable. And when I saw this, actually, it was intriguing because when I saw this image, it reminded me of something, and then I later saw what it was by someone else's calculations as well. Let me close this and show you what it was. It was this. You see, there's a study that recently mapped the odd structural similarities between the human brain and the universe. So this is the human brain, the neurons, and these are the filaments in the cosmos. And you see there's a very real parallel because God uses similar structures, you see, to do all these things. It's absolutely astonishing. So given all this, we are immersed in majesty and wonder and mystery. And I wanted to show you one other video. We don't have time, but maybe I'll show you that afterwards. Maybe we can show you this one about patterns in nature. That'd be a good way to go about it. But really what I'm after is this, and this is the essence of it. You go on forever. What do you think of the new creation will be like? You see? So I want you to train yourself to look at beauty and to do that in a way that is actually going to cause you to see that loveliness, that beauty, that glory of God. We are privileged. These are photos I just took yesterday from our yard. You see, so it's really it's like a little island, and by this what I call a plake. It's not a pond. It's not a lake. It's a plake behind our house. You see. And this is my special place. It's my meeting place. This is where I sit and reflect on God. It's a small yard, but it's got a lot of beauty. And so I just explore this beauty, and I do these daily little jaunts just to look at this splendor, you see, because it's a reminder to me of the greatness of the living God. So my desire for you is to train yourself when you're driving, to notice beauty wherever you go, and to when you're walking, and to look at these things, and to study these things, and to train yourself to see, because God, I think, is pleased when we notice His handiwork and begin to realize we're privileged to see things no one else even knew about. And yet the entirety of the cosmos, as huge as it is almost all empty. And in microcosmic space, it's also the same. If I had the nucleus of an atom about this size, say the size of a ball, a beach ball, the nearest electrons would be about a mile away. It's all empty. And these things are not hard particles. They're energy forces. They're fields of probabilistic movements and so forth. It's all boggles the imagination. You can't even begin to get your head around it. But it does point to the invisible. And that's what I want you to see. So with that, I'll let you discuss this for a few minutes here. And then think of what examples or illustrations, because there's so many sources now that we have that you can turn to, that I'd like you to just explore. How can you train yourself to actually become more doxological? That is to say, more of a sense of the awe of God, the love of God, the glory of God, and may I add the fear of God. Because there are times when you learn enough about a thing and you say, how is this possible? And it's almost chillingly frightening because we don't understand the fringe of His ways. I want to show you one more video in our remaining time. And this particular video will illustrate how everything is mathematically oriented. The Fibonacci series, the golden ratio, all kinds of wonderful, everything is the mind of the maker. He's the ultimate mathematician. And you're going to just see this, this is a very short video. incredible, isn't it? Just to see what God does in terms of his variety. And just, I love these dragonflies are so astonishing. We just recently discovered that all 4 wings are independent. So it's able to do things that nothing else can do. It's just unreal. So how is this working? This eye, this magnificent wonder that we behold in that eye, and just the complexities of every order of magnitude, and then its ability to see within that as well. And it just goes on and on and on. You're not going to be bored in heaven. You're not going to be bored. You're going to see stuff, and wait till you see what he's about to. If this is impressive, wait till you see what it'll be like then. But I want you to train yourself and to love him now in the works of his hands, and to use that to amplify. Sadly, most of these scientists who put these videos together see the beauty, but they don't see the one behind it. It reminds me where there was some oceanographers who were at a conference, and someone was showing a new video of an octopus that they had not seen this behavior before, because it was a big bush, it was like a seaweed plant, like this. And as the camera got close to it, the seaweed in a split second, a split second, changed color and shape and flew off and blew ink at us. It was an octopus. And when they saw that, you know what they did? They applauded. But who were they praising? You see, beauty and goodness and truth should be praised. Shouldn't it be acknowledged? So they were applauding, but they had no one to thank. But intuitively, they knew there was something that they were beholding, but they couldn't see it. I want you to not only see it and love it as they do, but also to see the one to whom it points. And if you can train yourself to do that and make that a growing habit in your life, I think you'll be very well rewarded for that endeavor. Your capacity for knowing and appreciating the lover of your souls will actually increase, and that's what I'm after.